Hello, everyone. Crazy week, huh? Well, we made it to Friday, thankfully, but also a lot of things are coinciding at the same time. First of all, I have a huge backlog of videos. Not really huge, but I've got a whole bunch of videos and they're all like sort of bigger projects and I'm kind of working on all of them at the same time. So it's like I'm working on stuff, it's just gonna be a while until stuff starts coming out. That includes Cold Steel 3 in a nutshell, as well as the Cold Steel 3 review. And I am way further along with the nutshell video than the review, so actually, the nutshell is probably what you'll end up seeing first. Actually, most likely what would happen, the nutshell will come before the review. There's probably going to be another video that comes before the nutshell though, but that's also sort of a high effort, I guess, project grade video, and it just required a lot of editing. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, it's been a while since I've like made a video, and you know, I've got other stuff I'm working on, so it's gonna be another, you know, long while. So I kind of need something to fill that gap, so there's that. Secondly, I kind of, you know, want to lift up, I guess, everyone else's mood and my own mood. Let me just post something funny. And then also the fact that Trails in the Sky the First is coming out soon, and I need an excuse to 1, play the demo, and 2, show off the demo footage. So, you know, for all of those reasons, we're going to be doing a shower thoughts on, like, just some, I guess, funny stories I have from back when I was in school. Like, this video is quite literally like a shower thoughts video through and through, because a lot of this shit came to me while I was, like, in the shower or, like, driving or doing some type of, like, activity where my mind was allowed to wander. Actually, when does my mind never not wander? It does that a lot. Anyway. So yeah, these are just some kind of funny things that I think, you know, just happened to me throughout mostly public school, mostly middle and high school. You know, just some memories I was reminiscing on, and I figured, you know, maybe I'd share them with you guys and, you know, we could get a good laugh or two. So right here I have about 6 or 7 stories. They're all very short, ranging from, you know, interesting to pretty funny, and we're gonna start with like an appetizer that's somewhat funny, and then we're gonna go in order from like most boring to most funny. So yeah, hope you had a good week. If you didn't have a good week, I hope I can help to make your week a little better, give you a good laugh over the weekend, and also too, you can enjoy the Sky the First footage. So let's get into this. I've stalled long enough. So the first story I have, it isn't very long at all. It happened while I was in middle school. Basically, it was the end of the day, we were all tired. This was also during daylight savings, so like, you know, you get out of school, or I got out of school around like maybe like 3:30, 3:40. By the time all the buses were loaded and were ready to head out, it was usually close to 4 o'clock. So, you know, by then the sun is going in, and that's really depressing because it feels like you literally spent all day at school. But we were all on the bus, you know, business as usual, and the bus driver was about to like head off, or sorry, no, not head off. He was like driving off, and we were about to exit the school. But there was this one girl, and you know, for the sake of anonymity, for the sake of being fuck, I can't speak. God damn. For the sake of being anonymous, we will call her Lexi. She was standing up, I guess she was talking to a friend or something, but she was really into it, and the bus driver like wasn't going to continue moving until she sat down. But I guess she didn't notice the bus driver telling her to do that because, like, I guess she was really into, like, whatever conversation she was having with her friend. So we're sitting there for a good while, like, people, like, trying to get her attention, telling her to, like, sit down, and, I mean, it's the bus, so you could even have continued talking, but we just needed her to sit down so we could all go home, you know? I don't know, for whatever reason, I just remember it was really hard for us to get her attention, and the bus driver literally had to like bellow, like carry his voice all the way to the back of the bus, being like, Lexi, sit down, you know, type of shit. And of course, so finally that gets her attention and she sits down, but now she's angry. So she's like, there, you damn bitch, are you happy now? Like, she cussed him out. I'm paraphrasing. She said a lot more than that, but I don't remember all that she said. I just remember, there, you damn bitch. But she said some pretty nasty stuff to him, all things considered. So he starts driving off again, because she sat down now, but it's not towards the exit, because I'll give you like a sort of map of what the bus parking lot looks like. It's donut shaped, and then like on one end of the donut there's the school. In the middle of the donut there's like a patch of grass that had like, I guess, like the flag and, you know, some other stuff. It was a patch of, you know, grass. or whatever. And then like the exit was on the other end of the donut. So we think he's driving off towards the exit. But I guess in light of what Lexi said to him, this man starts turning the wheel to the left like he's in a police chase or whatever, and he just books it all the way around right for the front of the school again. And I guess his intention was to go grab the principal and be like, hey, listen, she's being real disrespectful and I don't like that, or something like that. The vice principal was conveniently already out up front talking to someone else. So I guess, yeah, the driver gets off the bus to go tap the vice principal on the shoulder. And honestly, man, at that point, if I was Lexi, I would have just made a run for it. Like, if it were me, I probably would have just, just ran. Like, I don't know. She lived close enough to the school that she probably could have made it, but I mean, hey, I'm thinking about it after the fact. But yeah, that was the story of how a girl named Lexi got in trouble for cussing out the bus driver. And I'm not sure how it is today. I don't know how much you can get away with like cussing out a teacher or cussing out a bus driver, because to be fair, like I do see videos about like, oh, this student crashes out on the teacher, or the teacher crashes out back at the student or whatever. And it seems like there's a lot more leniency with what you can say and do to a teacher in school as a student than there was back when I was in school. And I wasn't in school that long ago. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, just bear in mind, like I'm 26, so I would have been in middle school like a decade and some change ago. Like middle school would have been what, like 14 years ago? 14, 15, maybe 16 years ago. So I'm sure a lot probably has changed since then. The next story on my list also happened in middle school. I said short, but it looks like some of these stories are going to be a little longer than I anticipated. I guess they were just short when I was thinking of them in my head. But this one really is short though, but I think it's still kind of funny. So we were in, actually, I don't even think it was a science class, because it would have made sense for it to be a science class given the subject matter, but I think it was actually, I don't remember what exactly the class was called, but it was an elective class, but it was literally a class about like how a library is structured and how to find books, like the Dewey Decimal System and all that stuff. And it was a course literally taught by the librarian, if that makes sense. I completely forget what the class is called, but it literally, I guess to keep it simple, it was literally a library class that teaches you about what's in a library. Anyway, the topic turned to the periodic table of the elements. But me being a frickin' 12-year-old, sorry, I didn't know any better, because he said periodic table of the elements, and he was like, do any of you know all of the elements? And I was like, oh yeah, I know all the elements. And he's like, really? You know them all from memory? And I'm like, oh yeah. And then I just look him dead in the eye and I'm like, water, earth, fire, air. And he just stares back at me and I'm like, what, that's the right answer, isn't it? And he's like, I'm talking about the periodic table of the elements. And I'm like, what's that? And he just, I think he literally did kind of facepalm. Although he said, okay, I'm not talking about Avatar, dude, which means he did understand the reference. So I guess I get points there. I should have gotten extra credit for that, I feel like. But anyway, yes, he does pull out, like, he did pull out like a chart that like had all of the, elements on it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, I've never seen this in my life, dude. And he's like, okay, well, fine, I'm gonna tell you about it. Again, I don't know how that even came up in the class. I just remember that it happened and I completely misunderstood what type of elements he was talking about. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. This next one happened in high school. We're not done with the middle school stories yet, but I have this ordered from like, in my opinion, like the least funny to the most funny. So that's why it's structured that way. But we had to do like a project, or we had to like do like a presentation on, it was like a social studies class, so I assume it was on like government or whatever. But we had to also find a video on the internet to like supplement the presentation, like a short video, or find a long video and like clip the parts we needed and like sort of show parts of that video with citations, of course, during, the presentation. So one guy goes up, he's ready to give his presentation, and one of the videos that he decided to use was Schoolhouse Rock, but it wasn't Schoolhouse Rock, it was like a Schoolhouse Rock parody video. Hey guys, Weapons from the Future here. I found the video because initially I couldn't remember what it was called or what it was even like all about. So I went looking for it. I did find it. I'll leave a link to it in the description. So if you want to watch it first for further context before you see, this segment of the video, go ahead. Although it seems like my situation with it wasn't unique, and it looks like a lot of people went through experiencing that video in the classroom. I'm not even sure if he realized if it was a parody or if it was the real deal. But yeah, so he shows the parody video, but because it's a parody, it had it had some stuff in it that wasn't appropriate for school. It wasn't anything we hadn't already seen. By then, it was high school. We had probably seen way worse by then, but it was still I guess over the line enough that it wasn't appropriate for school. And I feel like he didn't realize, because I kind of looked at the look on his face and I was like, I don't think he realized that this was a parody video. I think he thought this was the authentic Schoolhouse Rock, which kind of makes it funnier. But yeah, the teacher wasn't having it. He he shut the projector off because, you got the projector up at the front of the room that shows whatever's on the computer. Shut the projector off, dragged him outside the classroom or whatever. Yeah, and then he comes back in and he's all like, listen guys, there's a certain way you carry yourself and certain types of content that you put out when you're giving a presentation, in a professional setting. And I am sorry that you had to see that offensive content that he just showed you. And we're all sitting there and we're like, all right, man, but it's cool. It's, it ain't nothing we haven't already seen, but I mean, I guess he had to say that just to, you get what I mean. I didn't see him again for the next week and a half either. So I guess whatever trouble he got into was pretty big. I don't know if he got ISS or if he was suspended which, I mean, I don't know. I think a suspension might have been a bit, if he did get suspended, I think that's a bit overkill, but I mean, whatever they did to him, it must not have been good because I didn't see him again for a while. All right, the next story. It happened in middle school. So we were in math class. I distinctly remember it was math class. That's not really relevant to what's about to happen, but that's how vividly I remember this one. And there's this guy named Evan. Once again, name has been changed. So usually the way the class is structured is the teacher tells us how to do whatever math she's teaching us to do, and then she gives us a couple worksheets for the rest of the period to work on ourselves to practice it. So this was after she had taught us something new, and then we got our worksheets or whatever to go practice. So Evan gets up and he goes to use the bathroom. Now the reason this is something weird for the class was because this was one of those classes where you had to ask for permission to use the bathroom. Some teachers enforced that, some didn't. This was one of the teachers that did. But anyway, it was already weird that Evan was gone because he should have asked for permission to go to the bathroom. But then we started realizing that Evan hadn't, it's been 10 minutes, 15 minutes, damn near 20 minutes. Evan still hasn't come back. Oh, I forgot to mention this part because this part is actually crucial. Evan is Mexican. I'm not saying that to be stereotypical or racist either. It's not like he was Hispanic and we just mistook him for a Mexican. We knew for a fact he was Mexican, he told us previously. You probably already know where this is going. But yeah, so Evan's been gone for a good while, and the teacher, she's looking around because she's suspicious now. She's like, all right, where'd Evan go off to? And this one dude over to the side of the classroom, he didn't really whisper it, but he said it in a sort of low voice, but still loud enough for the rest of the class to hear. The teacher was like, where'd Evan go? He was like, across the border. Bro, I'm sorry. We busted out laughing because it's the room was so quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Teacher was like, where's Evan? Across the border. We were dying laughing. And I mean, well, we were laughing our intestines out. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't laughing much at all, actually. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that day she threatened to give us another extra worksheet if we didn't shut the fuck up. So, we had to try to hold ourselves together. You better believe I was laughing my ass off when I got home, though. But I say that to say, that kid who said that, when a kid causes too much trouble in class and they get their desk pulled up to the front beside the teacher's desk. You've got the board on one end of the wall, then the teacher's desk in front of the board, and then all the student desks after that. Yeah, he got the front desk of shame. She pulled his desk right up next to hers, because this wasn't like the first time he had like done something that like she didn't approve of or whatever. And it's like, compared to some of the stuff he did before, it wasn't even that bad, but like, just in addition to all the stuff he did before, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, she kinda, it's like, no, enough. Front of the classroom, right next to my desk. Front seat of shame. That shit was funny as hell though, I'm sorry. And then, of course, Evan finally comes back, so I guess he probably just took a shit or something. I mean, that could have been he didn't tell us why he was gone so long. I don't know if the teacher asked him about it privately or whatever, but I just remember, or maybe she was still, like, sort of, you know, processing the border joke or whatever, and she just forgot to ask him, but, like, yeah, Evan comes back in, and he's like, why is everybody smiling, and why is, you know, so-and-so's desk up front now? So, yeah, that happened. This next one is probably the wildest one. I'm trying to figure out where to even start with this one. So, funnily enough, it was another math class. I guess all the fucked up shit happened in math classes. This was high school though. And actually, I really did like this teacher. Like, he was a really cool guy. I unfortunately can't say the same for like the class. As a collective, you know, there were those of us who did our work and those of us who didn't. But the ones who didn't really did give the guy a hard time, and I just felt so bad for him because honestly, like, he seemed really chill. He was also one of those fresh out of college teachers too, so he was like really into video games and such. Like, I talked to him about like Mario and stuff, you know, all the time. So it's like, yeah, I liked the guy. Anyway, this isn't about him. He was sick one day and we got a substitute teacher instead. You know, I couldn't tell if he was like black or Middle Eastern. I mean, I guess for all I know, he could have been both. But yeah, that was just really interesting. He might have been mixed, or maybe he was like, I bring that up to say he had a really, really, really thick accent. And well, it kind of meant that we would have to ask him to repeat himself a lot whenever he was like telling us about math or all that, you know, all that stuff. Anyway, as I said before, there were quite a few, I guess, class clown archetypes in the class. One of them was actually this girl. I guess I gotta make up a name for her. We'll call her Josephine. It was the first name that came to my mind. So Josephine was kind of she was, I guess, kind of a class clown in a sense that she was disruptive, but she wasn't like actively disruptive. She would, you know, I guess she was the type that she didn't do her work. She was usually like on her phone, like doing whatever. I'm not sure how it is now. Back then, having your phone out during class was like a huge deal and like you absolutely couldn't do it. I guess because smartphones had been out for a while, but you know, it hadn't been super, super integrated into our lives yet. It was like, I think it was probably like iPhone 5 era or whatever. I don't think they had anything newer than the 6. It might have been either iPhone 5 or iPhone 6, like that sort of era. Like, smartphones were popular, but they weren't like so popular that people were treating them like an extension of ourselves quite yet. At least not in school settings. I don't know how much it's changed since then. But yeah, back to Josephine. So she was very, I guess, passively disruptive in the sense that she didn't really do anything. She usually like was on her phone or listening to music or whatever. And I guess the reason that made her disruptive is because the teacher would usually put all his energy into, you know, trying to get her attention and get her to pay attention, which means he would also have to, you know, be stopping the lesson a whole bunch of times to be like, hey, we're talking about this, please pay attention. And the substitute was no different. The substitute found himself doing the same thing, kind of trying to get her attention, being like, hey, listen, we're learning about this, can you pay attention? So, out of the blue, they start like talking to each other. They're not like yelling at each other or anything. It was a very calm conversation, but they were, because like, I guess like, you know, he couldn't understand why she wasn't paying attention, and she didn't want to pay attention because, you know, I mean, it's still school, like, boring as fuck, like... Well, why do students not want to go to school? Because it's boring. So, I mean, yeah, no mystery there. But yeah, they're like talking about it or whatever. And then he starts going into the whole, you know, well, it's about your future type of thing. And this is where the story gets really weird, but like, bear with me for a minute here. The substitute teacher, he says, listen, you really need to pay attention and, you know, take this seriously so you can make something good with your life. Otherwise, you're gonna, you're gonna have to like end up becoming a stripper or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but I do remember he specifically mentioned stripping as like the career path she might end up going down if, she doesn't pay attention in math class. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I'm gonna be real with you, Josephine did kind of seem like the type. I'm not saying that to be mean, but from the teacher's point of view, you gotta remember, I'm the student, he's the teacher. So from a teacher's vantage point, that is kind of a weird thing to be bringing up in a conversation like that. Like, he could have just as easily said, flipping burgers at McDonald's, and gotten his point across. But he went right for being a stripper, which that really is fucking weird, like the more I think about it. But anyway, he said what he said. I don't remember what Josephine said after that, but I do remember like she just kind of rolled her eyes and she was like, yeah, okay, whatever, just teach the class, like I don't give a shit. The teacher was like, all right, fine, whatever, I'll go back to teaching the class. But before he does that, he's like, I was doing some research on your guys' school before I was, supposed to sub here for today. And we're like, okay, yeah, all right, cool, whatever. And he's like, well, I noticed one of the women who had graduated from this high school, she eventually became a porn star. And like the room just goes silent, because we're all just looking at each other and we're like, what? Like, it was just so random. We're just looking around, like, it's just eerily quiet. Like, he just says that and it's just super quiet. And then we all just bust out laughing. Like, no additional work got done that day. Okay? Because we're sitting there thinking, like, why the fuck would he tell us something like this? And then, of course, somebody acts like, okay, what's her name? And he's like, well, I'm not telling. And I'm, we're sitting there like, okay, come on. Then why would you tell us something like that? And then you're not gonna say any further details, which, to be fair, is probably for the better. It was for the better, because there's no way you could have brought up, that's got to have been like against some rule or something to just bring up, that type of material or that type of content. He didn't show us anything, obviously, thank God. But like, even just like mentioning it or talking about it, like that's got to be against some type of rule or something, whether he dropped any names or not. But yeah, like, he's like, yeah, a girl that graduated from this school, like she's now a porn star. And yeah, we look at each other for a bit and we just start laughing. And then it gets better or worse, depending on your perspective. One of the dudes in the back, because we didn't have assigned seats in this class, because usually that stuff is at the discretion of the teacher. So it's like, usually when you don't have assigned seats, I mean, I'm just gonna be real with you. Usually the way it is usually the overachievers sit up front, the normal students who are kind of middle ground sit in the middle, and then usually the troublemakers end up sitting in the back. So you can probably tell, like, what kind of student he was just by the fact that, he was usually sitting in the back row. But yeah, like, as we're laughing, this guy, like, he cups his hands and he's just all like, what you know about porn, boy? Except he probably did it louder, but that's about as loud as I could get it without getting a noise complaint from my neighbors. But the thing is, like, yeah, he cupped his hands, he put his chest into it, he put the bass in his voice and everything. And whoever wasn't dying by then was dying of laughter at that point. Like, when I tell you no additional work got done that day, I do mean no additional work got done that day. And then another thing too, so then, all right, so the teacher, substitute teacher, he's sitting there, he's like, okay, guys, chill. It's not that big of a deal. Which, okay, yeah, you're talking about this kind of stuff to a bunch of teenagers. Like, we're all like 15, maybe some of us are 16. Like, what did you expect us to do? You just bring up something like that, like, just out of the blue. I'm not sure what he wanted us to do with that information. But yeah, I actually feel a lot better just sharing that. Yeah, I think what were we learning about? It was probably some trigonometry. It was something about triangles, so I'm thinking it was probably like trigonometry or something. And I guess this substitute teacher, he, let's just say there were a whole bunch of wrong angles in that conversation, and he was being very obtuse with regards to how in the know we would have been about the type of stuff he was talking about. Get it? Angles? Obtuse? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, that was a stretch. Like the video if you enjoyed it, sub to the channel if you haven't already. Special thanks to all channel members for your continued support. I really appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very soon.